How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be continuing my Sharks of Summer series. Sharks of Summer is a series I do around here where once a week during the summer I take a look at a shark movie, and this week we're going to be looking at Mississippi River Sharks. This is from 2017 and was directed by Misty Talley. And fun fact, I picked up this movie on this shark bait multi-pack. It has 6 films in here. We've already seen 2, but all 4 of the remaining shark films are actually directed by Misty Talley, so we'll be taking a bit of a deeper dive into her career in the coming weeks. This film stars Cassie Steele, Tahj Vaughans, Dean West, and Jason London. And this is also a Sci-Fi Channel original, and you can tell what the Sci-Fi Channel was thinking when they made this. Sharknado was a big hit for them, and they realized people liked cheesy and dumb shark movies, so why not make more of those? This movie is a jokey film, and you can tell it's not taking itself too seriously, and it's just trying to have fun with its concept. There are a few laughs to be had. For example, there's a movie within the movie, the Shark Bite series of films, and those are clearly supposed to be a stand-in for the Sharknado series, and you get some people that have seen the movies, and you get a bit of a self-aware shark film. And overall, it is fun enough, but it does not get anywhere near the Sharknado series. It's not a no-budget film, but it's a pretty low-budget film, so it can never quite do any of the insanity that Sharknado could. They do a few gags with their CGI sharks. There is something there, but the humor never quite lands on that Sharknado level. They tell jokes and they're fine enough, but it's not the funniest movie in the world. But I think besides the humor, the big problem with this movie is the lack of plot. It's one of those where you kind of have to ask yourself, what have we even been doing this whole time? For real, the movie could have been over really quickly if the characters just left the Mississippi River and called the authorities. But somehow about an hour and a half passes, and I'm like, what have we been even doing? You know, the whole plan is to basically just warn people that there is sharks, try to get them away from the river, and then, I don't know, get weapons, and then come up with some overly elaborate plan to hopefully save the day. Yeah, most of the runtime is just the characters talking and having little banter amongst themselves. Little jokes and character bits that come off well enough, but again, the movie doesn't have as much of a sense of purpose or direction as it really should to get you hooked and to get you invested. So between not having the strongest plot in the world and not having the best jokes in the world, it doesn't really stand out as well as it could. It never 100% grabbed me. But that being said, it is totally okay enough. If you guys want a decent, lazy Saturday afternoon movie, put something on, turn your brain off, watch the cheesy shark jokes, it's totally good enough in that respect, but it's not the biggest, most memorable thing ever. I can give it a soft recommendation if you're in this movie's target audience. Want a cheesy shark movie? Why not put this one on? All that being said though, I do want to break down and analyze this a little further, so from here on out I will be talking a bit about the plot. However, I'll be avoiding the end bits and I'll try not to ruin anything, so no major spoilers, but from here on out let's take a bit of a deeper dive. We open up with a pretty fun scene. We see this wacky shark attack scene, but the camera pans out and reveals that it was all just a movie. A girl sees the movie while she's on a blind date and starts to go on about how she's such a fan of cheesy shark movies, and it turns out she's not really clicking with her date who just wants to get out of there. They're on a Mississippi riverboat tour, and of course the boat just so happens to be attacked by sharks, just like in the movie. And overall, I was really liking the setup. The girl who knew about shark movies was a really fun character, and the idea that sharks would be attacking a riverboat on the Mississippi River. I thought it was a pretty good setup, but no. Turns out these are just prologue characters. We're gonna cut away from them and then switch to what the movie's really about. Can't help but feel like that was a huge mistake. They really should have stayed on the riverboat boat the whole time. Well, what's the movie's actual plot? It turns out there's a fishing competition just down the river, and the guy who's running the competition is an evil businessman. Not quite another clone of the mayor from Jaws, but basically close enough. He's just a businessman instead of the mayor. And it turns out he hears about the shark attack, but says, oh, that's preposterous. It's gotta be just an isolated case. I'm not going to let this ruin me because this fishing competition is so important to my finances. Okay, then that's a setup. And then we get to meet some of our characters. We get our main guy and his funny best friend, and they have like a tow truck and they're planning to use that as a big fishing hook to catch a giant fish. Okay, whatever. It turns out that these two actually are fans of the Sharkbait series of films that the girl in the prologue was watching, and we get to see them talk about it and be excited about it. And the main guy's best friend is a funny, jokey character and has a bit of life and charisma, so they're good enough leads. We also have in this movie a girl who's returned home from college, and it turns out she was a brilliant scientist, but she seems to want to give that all up in order to help out her father's struggling business. The father, of course, doesn't want her to do this, and we get a bit of a story trying to figure out what happened there. And it also turns out that the main guy knew this girl from back in high school and had a bit of a crush on her, so it's a case of, oh wow, what's she doing back in town? But then we also have Jason London. You see, the businessman invited Jason London over because he's a big movie star, and Jason London in this movie is playing a fictional version of himself, so that does lead to some actor and Hollywood humor there, and we get him being a bit of a diva and providing a fair bit of jokes for this movie. And while Jason London is a real actor, the series of films they reference are made up for this movie. The Sharkbite series of films, popular, big, over-the-top shark movies, and they made like 6 of them, and you get little jokes like no one likes the third one because the main character wasn't in it. And fun fact, some of the subtitles of the sequels are actual references to Misty Talley's other shark movies, like one of them is about Ozark sharks and another one is about Santa Jaws. So yeah, kind of funny that those would be actual movies even if they're not in reality part of the Sharkbite series. But other than those characters, there's a few that they don't really know what to do with. Like there's a reporter character who doesn't get much to do, and even the main girl's dad doesn't really have much to do, same with the cop character, and there's also another character that, you know, is obsessed with winning the fishing competition. They're fine enough characters, but they have an awkward amount of screen time where they're not just bit parts and they feel like they should be doing more. But yeah, the reporter, the dad, the cop kind of feel like they get forgotten about for large periods of this movie. But of course, the sharks do show up, and our main characters are the first to get cued in to them being there, and they're going to try to get people out of the water and try to figure out how to stop the sharks. And I have to say, you think this would lead to like a series of like rescue scenes or something, like how many people can we pull out of the Mississippi River? And there's a little bit of that, although a lot of the kills are just random murder vignettes and not rescue sequences. And they publicly catch a shark like really early on in this movie, so they're not trying to convince people there are sharks, and the word gets out pretty quick. And yeah, a lot of the people do wind up leaving by the end without a huge effort. It honestly feels like there's not much for these characters to do. Get away from the river, we're all good, call the authorities, movie's over. But no, they feel they have to catch the sharks themselves for some reason, and it takes them forever to do a pretty simple plot of let's just get some weapons from my dad's store. It's not really super involved, and it's not super tense, you know, like if you had stayed on the riverboat, that could have been a cool defend the base style story, it could have been sinking, stuff like that. And like say you have a river, in the movie Piranha, there was a chase down the river because the piranhas got out upstream, the hotel was downstream, and the characters had to try to beat the piranhas to the hotel. That was a good plot, and you could have done something like that because this is another river movie. But no, there's shockingly little going on. And I don't want to ruin the end, so I'll kind of talk vaguely about it. But like with most shark movies, it ends in a stupid, convoluted plan. And I started to realize, especially with this one, that a lot of shark movie wrap-up sequences are kind of like Fred's plans on Scooby-Doo. Overly elaborate, probably wouldn't work, kind of silly. And without saying what they think to do, this is one of the more Scooby-Doo endings to a shark movie. And yeah, the ending for this one is kind of weird. So overall, it's a movie that has a decent setup. The characters are fun enough, the Mississippi River is a good setting, and I like the self-referential movie within a movie trope. It just didn't feel like it had enough to do, and the jokes weren't as punchy as they should be. Overall, it's an okay film, not a huge recommendation. It is far from the worst shark movie I ever seen. Let me tell you, they do go way worse than this. So as it stands, not a huge recommendation, but the film's okay for what it is. Anyway though, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Sharks of Summer 2025 playlist. And in that playlist, you can see me talk about some of the other movies from this shark bait collection as well. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Playlist here. Have a good day now.